Greetings, Dr. Ron Lewert here. Welcome to my YouTube. So we're going to talk about eliminating soda and fruit juice from your diet as well as from your children's diet. It's very important that you watch this if you're concerned about chronic disease. And the diseases associated with obesity, especially type 2 diabetes in children, and eventually heart disease and other issues that stem from chronic obesity. In our center, we provide in-body 770 scanning in addition to blood work. So we can check your cholesterol and your blood sugar. And if you're one of those patients that requires medication, we put you on prescription medication. However, our goal is to get you off of that medication. And the reason we want to get you off of it is because your diet and exercise habits need to change. If you do change them and stop drinking the sugary drinks and stop eating processed foods, it's likely that you'd be able to come off of some of this medication. You'd also be within the correct body composition for your height and gender. So what we do is we combine your blood work. Let's say you have normal blood work, but you're an apple-shaped human and you're in your 20s. So you're overweight, but you have normal blood work. Well, you're almost guaranteed to morph into type 2 diabetes at some point if you don't reduce your visceral or torso fat stores. And usually this comes from ingestion of too much soda and fruit juice or sugary items. So in our center, we target those items. We give you in-body scans probably once every 6 weeks so you can track your results. And we've seen some pretty phenomenal results. Haley, if you're watching this, good job, kid. Samantha, awesome job. Both of these patients have only been with us for a couple of months, I'd say 2 to 3 months, and they've made really tremendous reductions in their body fat stores and increases in their muscle mass with light exercise, but mainly a reduction in the liquid fat, right? The soda and the fruit juice. So let's get into this a little bit. We'll hopefully keep this whole thing to a 15-minute max, and we'll hit the next slide. So the average American is about 30 pounds heavier than they should be compared to 25 years ago. We have a lot of apple-shaped people here now. You don't see too many guys over 30 with a flat tummy and a six-pack, broad shoulders. You don't see that much except for dudes that go to the gym. Okay, we see some guys, but the average 30 to 35 to 55-year-old guy has got a pot belly or they're apple-shaped. And this is dangerous. This is not normal for humans to be shaped like this. Women, they tend to be more pear-shaped, some are apple-shaped. But what this is an indication of is poor exercise and diet habits. And moreover, it's an indication that there's a lot of sugar consumption. So hopefully after we get through this, you'll see that these items containing almost 20 teaspoons of sugar are really horrible for you and your children, and you'll start to eliminate these items from your diet. So here's a 20-ounce Mountain Dew. This thing has 0 fat, but this is quite misleading. All of this sugar, the 77 grams of sugar, however, which is equivalent to about, I'm going to just write down 20 here, 20 teaspoons. There are almost 20 teaspoons of sugar in this 20-ounce Mountain Dew. That's pretty disgusting. What happens to the sugar? Well, it gets converted directly into fat. Gets directly converted into fat in your kid as well as you. There's no difference in processing in humans for high fructose corn syrup. And that we'll go over the nutritional biochemistry of fructose, because the fructose portion is really where the problem lies. If you drink one of these per day for a year, you will gain almost 30 pounds of pure blubber, just to illustrate how bad this stuff is for you. If you go to the Wawa and get like a, what is it, a 50-ounce big gulp, I think you'll gain almost 60 pounds per year in pure fat. And the majority of the problem with that drink is the sugar. Again, it's the high fructose corn syrup. Let's get into some of the differences between good sugars and the bad sugars. But before we do that, let's talk about how the sugar problem started in the first place. Of course, it started with a war. Our government, right? War on poverty, war on this, war on that. Always got to go to war on everything, but nothing ever happens positive. So President Richard Nixon had a war on poverty going. He wanted to make food more affordable. He started the WIC program. And basically, the massive increase in childhood obesity that resulted from giving all of these sugary drinks to the inner city kids, we didn't recognize that fructose was the problem for about 50 years. We have 50 years of statistics where they tried to tag the obesity on fat foods. So much so that the government got involved, the AMA and USDA, the American Heart Association, figured, okay, fat causes heart disease, fat also causes obesity, and so if we eliminate fat from the food, we'll see a reduction in the obesity. And they were talking about the kids that were drinking the juice, thinking that their fat foods were making them fat, but they were wrong. Today we have more type 2 diabetes and obesity and all the related issues as such than they did in the 70s. So they targeted fat. They were wrong. They went so far as to create a low-fat craze, which we'll go over in a second here. So part of the war on poverty involved processed foods and making our processed foods affordable, shippable, storable. And in order to do that and to reduce the fat, we have to process these foods in a manner such that they require the following: lots of sodium, lots of sugar and high fructose corn syrup. We have to eliminate fiber from these products. We have to add chemicals and preservatives in order to make them have longer shelf lives. And we're going to cook them with cheap inflammatory plant oils such as corn oil. So in trying to reduce the obesity statistic, they changed our foods up, processed them, made them shippable and storable. And also, because they took the fiber out and the addition of all the chemicals made this stuff taste terrible, they actually added more sugar and high fructose corn syrup to them. So what happens when we consume good sugar, glucose, that is contained in fruits and vegetables? Well, first of all, glucose is necessary for humans to survive. We need plant materials in order to survive. The sugars that are contained in fruits and vegetables are the good sugars. You are allowed to eat fruits and vegetables. I've heard even some medical physicians tell people not to eat fruit because the fruit contains too much sugar. Don't agree with that. The sugars in plants are low glycemic index sugars, and they do not do damage to your system. There are some high glycemic index fruits, of course, we all know that. You don't consume them in large quantities, otherwise you're going to get the same type of hyperglycemia that you would from simple sugars. So when we eat an apple, the benefits are that the apple is digested over time. The sugars that are contained in the apple do not make your blood sugar levels raise high. You don't get a massive increase in insulin from the pancreas. Everything stays about level with fruits and vegetables. The fructose and the glucose are bound to other substances and digested over time. We have vitamins and minerals, antioxidants and phytonutrients in this apple substance, and the processing occurs much longer than it does to process the fructose when you gulp down a soda. So the sugars in plants do not produce disease. They do not result in insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes and heart disease. However, the sugars that are contained in sugary beverages are causative for type 2 diabetes and heart disease. And the reason is this is a man-made chemical. This high fructose corn syrup is toxic to the liver and produces liver damage. Our food manufacturers know this stuff is 7 times sweeter, but they don't use any less in their products. And we now know that table sugar, or sucrose, is metabolized exactly the same way as high fructose corn syrup. Okay? The damage occurs in the child or the adult liver. And what happens is we produce abnormal amounts of fat, which result in fibrosis of the liver, and in non-alcoholic fatty liver. We have increases in very low density lipoprotein and a resultant increase in your LDL cholesterol and your triglycerides. So this sugary stuff right here is in no way, shape, or form similar to the sugars contained in natural plant materials or in fruits and vegetables. This is a toxic waste. You should never allow your children to eat this stuff. So we know that glucose processing from an apple is different from a soda. We know that fructose is sweeter. It's metabolized in the liver, causing liver damage. It causes people to eat more because it does not trigger the hunger satiety mechanism. Okay, so fructose does not have receptors on it for insulin, therefore it doesn't, you don't get a response from the pancreas. Fructose goes directly to the liver where it's converted to fat. That term is called de novo lipogenesis. And the fats that are produced are the bad fats, the cholesterol and the triglycerides, the LDL cholesterols. We have a problem with fructose not triggering the satiety mechanism. So when you drink soda and eat candy and pie and sugar, you know, if you've ever noticed that you just can't stop eating that stuff sometimes, in part it's because we don't sense that we've eaten it. Unfortunately, the food scientists recognize this. They know that this stuff is engineered to keep you coming back and to keep you eating and drinking more sugar. So these are the last 2 slides that I wanted to discuss, and I want to make sure parents understand this. If you give your kid a soda, okay, if you take a look at the list here, okay, so fructose and the high fructose corn syrup, being a man-made toxin, is going to cause type 2 diabetes, obesity, insulin resistance, cardiovascular disease, and is linked to various cancers. High fructose corn syrup increases your bad cholesterol, your LDL cholesterol, and your triglycerides. High fructose corn syrup is causative for fatty liver disease, high blood pressure, gout, myocardial infarction, and is linked to childhood obesity. Additionally, sugars in high fructose corn syrup have been linked to childhood asthma, autism, bipolar disorder in children, anxiety, Ritalin use, increased use of antidepressants in children, and this is from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. So let's take a look now and compare the physiologic effects of alcohol as compared to that of high fructose corn syrup. So this slide indicates the great similarities between alcohol and high fructose corn syrup. So what we're seeing here is almost an identical list here. So the pathology caused by drinking alcohol are as follows. Alcohol is causative for type 2 diabetes, obesity, insulin resistance, cardiovascular disease, and is linked to some cancers. Sounds familiar, right? From the high fructose corn syrup list, the soda and fruit juice list. Alcohol increases your LDL cholesterol. It increases your triglycerides. It's causative for fatty liver disease, high blood pressure, gout, and myocardial infarction. Now, these lists are almost identical if you go back to the last slide. So why would you allow your kid to drink 2 or 3 fruit juices a day, or 2 or 3 sodas a day, or even maybe even more than that when combined with other sugars such as your cereal that you might be giving the kids in the morning? You might be giving them fruit juice in the morning thinking that's healthy, right? They may go to a school party or have a gathering with other kids and eat cupcakes and drink juice and soda because that's what moms bring, right? I would limit this stuff severely. I wouldn't necessarily, you're not going to turn your kids into little nutrition freaks, but it's, better off that you pull this stuff back, pull it back a little bit at a time and introduce fruits and vegetables. I suggest for adults, for my patients, you buy yourself a Yeti. Fill that guy with water and just drink it. And when you're done, fill it up again. I drink 4 or 5 of these a day. I don't drink fruit juice or soda, and I don't drink alcohol. It's just what I do. It keeps me in shape. My numbers are good. I feel good, even though I'm an old guy. So hopefully I passed some of this information along to you, and you can work with it any way that you like. If you need additional advice or have any questions, you can direct message me or email me. Leave a like or subscribe on my YouTube page. This is Dr. Ron Lewert. Thanks for listening. Have a good day.